Welcome, everyone, to the ComedySportz Podcast, starring your host, Christine Rolo Capriolo. And now, the man who looks better in vertical than horizontal stripes, Joe Mama Cortese.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ComedySportz Podcast. Very excited today. It's like I'm sitting here with a relative of mine. I have Mr. Joe Cortese.
Christine, we have two Italians sitting across from one another.
We do. We just need to get some
that?
spaghetti and have a blast.
I think we're going to have a blast no matter what.
I want to tell my listeners here that we practically are related in a weird sense because you, when you were a kid, my great-great-aunt, Sister Mary Michael, was your teacher. And somehow, through the Italian gossipy grapevine, we figured that out at one point.
So the grade school on the east side that my entire family went to, my four older siblings, and then 11 years later, I'm the baby. Yeah, there's an 11-year difference.
Yeah.
And the school we went to was St. Rita's, and now it's Three Holy Women. When I got into the fifth grade, a new teacher was coming. A nun from St. Joan Antietam was coming over, or coming back to St. Rita.
Right.
And it was Sister Mary Michael. And when my older siblings found out that little Joey was going to have Sister Mary Michael as their fifth grade teacher, they didn't say anything.
Okay.
They just laughed and had this look on their face. And I think I've told you the story before. Believe it or not, day one of class at St. Rita's, we all get into our desks, and Sister Mary Michael has a roster of students, the list, and she just goes, "Mr. Cortese." She looks, she totally knows who I am.
Of course she does.
And she's like, "Come here."
Uh-oh.
Front desk all year.
Oh!
And she just plopped me down right in the front.
And you were like, oh, man.
She was an amazing, that Catholic upbringing and that grade school was amazing, and she was a big part of it, no doubt.
She was a saint.
So when we found out that,
I don't remember how we found that out.
I think it was at Festa.
Probably
family
Festa,
gathering
yes.
at Festing. What? You know, huh?
Yes, because it's all so small Milwaukee, right?
No
Everyone
doubt.
knows everyone, all the old
doubt.
families. Mm-hmm. And now they're building the old pink church on Cass Street.
They knocked everything down.
Yes,
it's going
that's
to
where
be,
she lived.
It's going to be a retirement home for people that from the parish, hopefully, and then anybody else who needs it for sure. And then they built the pink church right next to it, a replica of
unbelievable
of the church.
Well, that was my
Pompeii.
favorite thing at Festa every year,
doubt.
seeing all that. Well, so go ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I think it's great that we're so entwined with family.
Right, and we've tried to do this podcast for a bit, and we finally got some free time. And
we have. You're a busy man, Joe.
It done. Well, you know.
Well, so you're born and raised in Milwaukee, like you said, Catholic American, Italian.
You bet.
Yes.
Grandparents from Sicily.
Okay.
I don't think they were on a boat. I think they swam next to it, but they got here somehow.
Okay.
And born, both mom and dad's families are both from Santa Agata, the same town in Sicily.
Okay, wow.
And dad fought in World War II. Saw a picture of my mother and his sister on a Polaroid when he got home. Said, "Want to meet her?" And in 4 months they were married.
Oh,
isn't that crazy?
Oh, your mama was a sweet lady.
Good lady.
Never met your dad, but I met
She
your
laughed
mom.
at everything I did.
She was wonderful.
Yeah, and I was not that funny. So
you said there's 11 years difference between you and your next sibling.
Yes.
So what kind of kid were you with these older siblings? And then here's baby Joey.
So my sister Grace was 17 when I was born. So she's like, "We got a toy."
Grace, I love her.
Yeah. So they were pretty much gone, right? By the time my sisters were married, when my sister Grace got married, I left the church crying at St. Rita's because somebody was stealing my big sister away. So they had to, right after the wedding, right after the mass, after the ceremony, they came to the house on Jackson Street, which was 2 blocks away. And they had, Pat had, her husband, had to convince me that he was not going to hurt my sister because that's what I thought was going to happen. You know, I was an East Side kid. I was a little punk kid growing up, but at that time everything was different. The neighborhood was a neighborhood.
Yeah.
We lived on the 1600 block of North Jackson Street, and the the Macchi family, the Dentiste family, the Cortese family, the Canestra family, the Bazil family, the Catania family, and the Sheffield family all lived within a 5-house radius on both sides of the streets.
Yeah.
And after dinner, the parents and grandparents were on the porch, drinking their wine, drinking their Pabst, and the kids were in the street, and they could do anything. And there was maybe 1 or 2 cars going down the road at night. Now now all the houses are gone, and they're all condos, and
it's different. I know.
Everything.
I remember talking to my grandpa about the 3rd Ward where he lived with the Vitucci's.
Correct.
Yeah. And he's Capriolo, but the Vitucci's I'm related to, and Michael Vitucci, the king of the 3rd Ward.
Nice.
And all the stories and how upset my grandpa would tell me that they were when they knocked down the little church, the little pink church, for the freeway. Yeah. And then turns out they didn't need to knock it down because they didn't put the freeway where the church was.
No, and they also took a lot of houses off of a 1 block south of our house on Lyon, from like Lyon and Jefferson to Lyon and Humboldt. They knocked all those houses down because that freeway was supposed to go through there and connect to the home bridge, and that never happened. And those were all Italian families, and they all had to move. They had to, so they had to move. We were just off of that, and the house that I grew up in, my grandparents owned. And before I was born, my mom and dad lived upstairs with my 4 siblings in a 1-bedroom, 3-room flat, and downstairs my aunt and uncle lived. Yes. With the same the house was laid out the same. And they had 4 kids also.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But some for some reason they couldn't figure out names well. There was a big Jack and a little Jack and a big Roy and a little Roy, and I have no idea why. There was a Jack and upstairs and downstairs. Grace upstairs, downstairs, Roy upstairs, downstairs. It's like, really?
Wow.
Come on now.
Come on, be original with some names. Well, so we could do an Italian podcast.
Probably shouldn't.
Yeah. So how did you go from Little Joey at St. Rita's? Yeah. How did you start? You didn't start ComedySportz right away. You were in Brady Street. Tell me about how what did you want to be when you were a kid? How did you go from this little kid to comedy?
The fact that you asked that, I still have no idea what I want to be, and I'm 57.
No, right.
And
That's what my mom always says.
I think I've done pretty well so far.
You have?
I never thought I would be somebody that would be on stage, but I also never thought I never knew what I wanted to be.
Okay.
And that, so never wanted to go to college.
Okay.
Just wanted to get through high school and figure it out. And
where'd you go to high school?
I went to Milwaukee Tech first year, but I did want to be in the theater department.
Okay.
I wanted to try that.
Yeah.
So when I said I didn't want to be on stage, I meant never thought I could make people laugh.
Yeah.
Knew I could read a script.
Okay.
And I could learn a part and play a character, and I would like to train to do that well. So I ended up going to Dominican High School in Whitefish Bay and was in every play there.
You were.
And and the senior musical, I was in the senior musical, I had a lead in Oklahoma, and the director at Dominican's like, there's 2 schools that want you to go there. Cardinal Stritch would like it, and I'm like, they're going to pay for your school.
Wow.
They're going to pay for everything. And that didn't work out because I wasn't so much of a person to be in my nose in the books.
Okay.
Wasn't doing that.
Sure.
And I signed up late for school.
Okay.
So I did 1 semester at Cardinal Stritch, but 3 of my classes were 300 level classes. I had to take them for the scholarship to be there for me. And one was like costumes from 1412 to 1520, and I was like, I could barely read. But it just kind of all fell apart.
Okay.
Then friends of mine that went to Cathedral High School were putting together an improv sketch group. Actually, it was a sketch group first. We didn't even know that improv was going on.
Okay.
And they started a group called Brady Street. And then at about 6 months into their group, Angelo Farina, God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
He asked if I could join the group, and then I did.
So how'd you know Angelo?
Angelo was an East Side kid, 5 years older than me. Yeah, I went to Cathedral with everybody else in the neighborhood.
You just knew him.
Yeah.
So it was Angelo Farina, Bruce Brinker, John Polesnik, and you,
and
Joe
me.
Cortese.
And originally Donnie Scheid. There were 5 of us total. Those 4, all went to St. John's, and I was little Joey.
You were little Joey.
I was like 5 years younger than them.
Okay.
Yeah. We started by pretty much staging old jokes.
Really?
Yeah, like old jokes, staging old jokes and doing like 20-minute sets at stand-up places in town in 1985 that was like Wimpy's Hunt Club, which was my goodness, it was on North Avenue. It was right next to the old Pizza Man that burned down.
Sure.
The open mic night was on a Monday night.
Okay.
There was 4 people in there.
Yeah.
All over the age of 70.
Yeah.
Just bellied up at the bar and not paying attention to anything.
So you guys are just playing around.
No, they had an open mic night. They had like 6 or 7 comics who were all coming in to do.
Okay.
This was prior to the big stand-up comic wave of the 80s.
Yeah.
Because there weren't any comedy clubs anywhere till 1985, 86.
Okay.
And then it went like crazy for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they're everywhere.
Right.
So we did Wimpy's Hunt Club. They pretty much had a booth by the door that had a table that they pulled out and put some milk crates down and a piece of plywood over it.
Yeah.
And you stood up on that thing without
I've played on a stage like that.
without a microphone.
Yeah.
And you tried to entertain the 4 drunk elderly
people.
gentlemen that are in the room.
Right.
And we had 4 guys in our group. So all of the 4 of us had to be on this piece of plywood. That's pretty much where it started. Our first paying gig was at Teddy's.
Okay.
Which is now, what's the name of the... it's Shank Hall,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It used to be Teddy's, and once a month they did Teddy's Sunday Funnies.
Okay.
And our first paying gig was $20. We each got paid $5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you were in Brady Street for how long before you guys? How did you come to ComedySportz? How did this cross paths with ComedySportz?
We found out from my mentor AJ.
Okay.
He said, "You guys have to check this out. This
Yeah.
is going on." And it was at Cults at the time. That
Right.
was 1986.
86.
1986 is when we joined the first workshops at ComedySportz. And I didn't want to, after the first one, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to be good at this.
Why
I
is
was
that?
deathly afraid of it. The fear, and the funny thing is that the fear did not end there. The fear of on stage for me went way into me performing for ComedySportz.
Really?
I would really, yeah. Very,
Was it the improv part of it that it wasn't sketch, or what was it?
Fear of failure, I think,
Yeah.
and I actually think I got better because of that.
Yeah.
That fear helped me, help my ComedySportz career go on, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, the length of it.
So was AJ doing ComedySports?
No.
So how did he
He
just
said, "You guys need to. You guys are writing these sketches.
Yeah.
You need to incorporate improv. You need to get in, do your comedy Brady Street group, and then get into ComedySportz."
Yeah.
So then all 5 of us took the first workshop, which was at the JCC on Prospect.
And who was your teacher, Dick?
Karen Kohlberg.
Okay, Karen.
Karen Kohlberg taught it. Tom New was in it. Roz Turner was in it, and then all of us. So there are 5 of us.
Yeah.
8 weeks of mime. I'm serious. And it was like, but we were able, but you think about how classes are taught now.
Right.
That don't happen.
No.
But I guarantee you, I may not have been funny, but I could have built a kitchen and showed it to you in every piece of that kitchen without a doubt. And we know at the end of the day how important that is.
Right, absolutely.
When it comes to showing an audience where you are without opening your mouth.
Absolutely.
It's like, don't tell them where you are, show them what you are, like
yeah.
the basic rules, right? So we did 8 weeks of Karen's workshop, and then the intense fear came. The intermediate class was taught by John Bank.
Okay.
And it went just dead into scene work.
Okay.
And I just never thought I was funny. I just never thought I could think of funny things to say. So it was so internal for me personally. I would get so worked up, and it would be like, oh my gosh, the class is at what time? It's at 7:30. It's 3 hours. I just need to get through this.
Okay.
And I mean, I feel like it's right. I can feel that fear in me as I'm talking to you right now. Believe it or not. Yeah, for sure. I remember Bob Orvis coming to a class and being the guest
Instructor
the
or
guest
something?
with John.
Okay.
And I was just told, and everything I did was wrong. I was like, put so much pressure on yourself, babbling, scared, didn't volunteer. There was only 8 of us in the class.
Yeah.
Got through that.
Okay.
Wanted to quit after every class. And Angela was like, you're not leaving. You're doing this.
He wouldn't let you.
You are not leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's responsible pretty much for me sticking it out all the way because he was never going to let me not do it.
Yeah.
No matter how much fear or how bad I thought it was.
Yeah.
The third set of workshops were Wednesday. We all got then invited to Wednesday nights at Cults.
Okay.
And that was the professional teams Wednesday night, practices.
Okay.
That was tough.
And that was tough?
That was very tough.
Why is that? Because you were playing with people already performing there?
People already performing there, and there was a few that were performing there that wanted no part of 5 dudes that all knew each other.
Really?
There was, without bringing up names of other people, because I don't really want to do that. That being said, it was a different time then, and we came in as family. I mean, we walked through the door as we have each other's backs.
Right.
And we want to be a part of it. And you had, John Polesnik from the start.
Yeah.
That kid was funny no matter what.
Yeah.
There was no fear in him. John took his first, as soon as John got in his first Wednesday, professional Wednesday practice, he could have been playing since the inception of it, right? With John Bank, with Rosie Friedman, with Dick, with Bob, and Tom was playing. Tom was brilliant from the start.
Tom
as
New
well.
was already playing? Yeah.
No, he came in with us.
Oh, with you?
But
Okay.
you could tell he had it.
Yeah.
And then I took about 2 or 3 months for me to get a chance to play. I didn't want to play.
You didn't want to play,
so
Joe?
I'm serious. That's the way it was.
Really?
For me, which is amazing because as comfortable and as well as I did later on, you would never think that was the case.
No.
A perfect example is the first show I got scheduled for was, we did 2 shows, 7:30 and 10, and I got scheduled for a 7:30 show.
Yeah.
And I must have been sick for a half hour prior to it, right? Like
really?
like
being
sick. Ill.
Yeah.
Right? And I just couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for halftime, and I couldn't wait for the end of the show, right?
Did you have fun at all?
I didn't.
Oh no! I can't believe you're sitting here.
I just can't. No, but there's glorious things that happen from that point on, right? I mean, it was such an important part of my comedy sports beginning that I had to get past all of this to get to the point where I feel I can do anything on stage in front of anybody. I can entertain anybody. A 4-year-old, 75-year-old.
Yeah.
You give it to me, I got it. I can do it. No way did I think I would ever get to that point. And this didn't help. The first show I'm in. Mm-hmm. The first show I'm in, it's 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And there is it's what are you doing? It is team choice, team challenge, 5 things.
Right.
Halftime.
Catch up.
5 things.
Oh, 5 things again.
We did 5 things
That's
twice.
Right.
We did 5 things, right? But we did it with an audience member.
Right.
But it was the most popular game, and it's still
very
it's a very
popular.
popular game. And then do a head-to-head, and then an object freeze.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just that show.
Yeah.
My first show, Dick is the captain, and he goes, all right, Bo's reffing, and he goes, we're going to play the game of single dubbing.
Okay.
All right. And he goes, all right. And I'm sitting there like, okay, all right, that's going to be easy because I'm not going to have to talk.
Right. I'm just going to stand.
In the game of single dubbing, we that one person does all the dubbing for all of the characters in whatever scene is being
who are acting out a
improvised,
scene.
for
Yeah.
sure. And Dick looks over at me and goes,
Yeah, he did.
you're dubbing.
Did you poop your pants on stage?
And I was like, what? So, and then like 2 people just jump on stage and I got to start talking.
Yeah.
So I talk in my voice for one of them. I do a falsetto voice for the other person. And now I think I need to change my voice and my character for all 5 of them or all 4 of them, but I didn't really need to do that.
Yeah.
And I got waffled off the stage twice.
No.
And it ended, and I was just soaking wet. And I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Oh, no.
I'm going to kill Dick. I'm going to absolutely kill Dick. Second half, we're doing changing emotions. And Bob yells, I think Bo yells out, one of the emotions Bob yells out to me is aloof. And I had this the moniker, this stamp of aloof for at least 25 years while I was there. Every award for our banquets, it was like the Joe Cortese Aloof Award, not knowing what words mean, right? So he yells out aloof.
Yeah.
And I thought it was 2 words. I thought it was aloof, and I thought aloof would be just like some dumb guy or some dumb character. So he yells out aloof, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go and get it. And then Bob, who's on stage with me, Bo yells out jealousy. And Bob goes, oh, great, you get to play aloof stupid. And the entire audience laughs, and I have no idea what he's talking about. And I'm like, I'm never coming back in this building again.
So
obviously that all changed.
Why did you? Because Angelo threatened you? You had to stay?
No. It just got easier. It got more fun.
Yeah.
I got more confident. I realized that my goal from the start was always to be really good at everything. And I compare that to me as an athlete. I'm not an athlete by any means, but I can play any game.
Okay.
Maybe not now at 57, but back then.
You were not 57.
I am 57.
Oh my God.
I don't feel it, but back then I could. If you wanted to go play tennis, Christine, I could go play tennis with you.
All right, sure.
I'm gonna be able to play tennis. I'm gonna be able to play golf. I'm gonna be able to throw a football. So I was always, 50% at everything, and maybe a little better at basketball, just because I played it more. But I could always do it. Yeah. That's where I put my focus at ComedySportz. And one thing I knew I had is that I was very, very likable.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Jen and Dick liked me from the start and playing me. Jen always said, you could go on stage and everybody would just smile.
Oh, sure.
So I think that was one of the reasons why audience started to like me, even if I didn't worry about starting to make mistakes on a personal level.
Yeah.
Then I realized that it wasn't so much personal, and is such a team effort. I felt I was a very, very strong team player.
Yeah.
And I made everybody better around me. And while that happened, I got pretty dang good.
Well,
in all aspects of what it's like. For example, Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I was like deathly afraid of Shakespeare, and then all of a sudden I figured out that I could be good at it.
Really?
By listening to Bo Johnson do it.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So everything was pretty much at that level. So it slowly got better, and it got better, and then all of a sudden,
well, by the time I come back to Milwaukee from playing in Madison in '98. My first show in Milwaukee, I look at the lineups.
Yeah.
Joe Cortese.
Right.
Brian Green.
I know.
Bruce Brinker. I just about puked. I was like, oh my God. And I'm shocked to hear how uncomfortable you were and how you hated it, because when I saw Joe Cortese on that lineup, I thought, oh my God, he is, like you said, so like everyone loves you. You were so comfortable. You were Mr. Hey, yo, ComedySportz guy. And I'm blown away by you saying those things. I was so intimidated to play with you. But then right away you were like, hey, we're good to see you. Come on in. I mean, you were so welcoming. Everybody was. But to see your name and to see that I was doing a show, I was like, something doesn't compute. How am I going to go on stage with him?
It was the best times of my life.
Yeah.
On stage. Even those tough times early. I mean, you have to start, and you have to start somehow. Mine started out that way. I would imagine if you ask people their initial feeling about the first show that they did, it would be similar to the explanation. Mine was a little more hectic, I think.
Yeah.
When I got the first time I don't dwell on how unfun it was, but the first time I got 2 shows, I got to Cults, and I'm just like, all right, I got 4 halves. I swear, I was like, I have 4 halves to get through. Now, you think about how that started, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but then let's get to 1993.
Right.
When it's like we have the greatest thing that's going on in this city.
Yeah.
And I'm doing every show, so it's not me, obviously, but my confidence and what I've done with my performance.
Right.
And then you got all these amazing, I mean, our Milwaukee strength is
incredible.
pretty amazing in our shows. That was some serious heyday going on. I mean,
well, so when did you start reffing? Was that always part of it, or did you pick that up later on? Because nobody refs like you.
Yeah,
you have an amazing style.
There's been a lot of great people reffing.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody that refs has their story. Some people started reffing, some people didn't. Someone's like, you have to ref. Dick's like, I want you to ref.
Yeah.
Everybody likes you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first I didn't want to get caught in the, I'm going to be reffing all these shows and not playing so many.
Yeah.
There's that way to look at it. Then that changed. Then I got really comfortable.
Yeah.
And like Holly would say, you tend to want to be in control way too much. And it was nice to be in control of stuff.
Yeah.
Be in control of the show, not necessarily for my benefit, but for the show benefit, because personally I felt I had a really good handle on everything that was going on. I knew what the audience was like, where the kids were. I'm really good with a kid audience. I knew where the drunks were. I knew how to handle them, talk to them prior. So I got so comfortable reffing, I had to ref the big shows. You know, I had to ref the championship matches. I had to ref the 7:30 sold out show.
Yeah.
I knew the show was going to be good if I was wearing stripes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember with you reffing.
That sounds horrible.
No, that's all right. We can all pat ourselves in the back for something
I know,
in life.
but it just like you know. At one time, I said I want to play the show I'm reffing in. I do. I want to call the forward. I want to be in the forward reverse
and call it.
Yeah. Or the changing emotions and call it.
Yeah.
Because I can knock it out.
Right. Well, something that I always remember with you reffing is you, as a ref, would spend more time off stage than on stage.
Yeah, in the audience.
Yeah, a lot of people ref on stage. You would always go down in and out of the audience, talk to people in the crowd. You'd work the crowd. And I always thought that was, and it was comfortable for you. And the crowd loved it.
It's more personable, right?
Yeah.
You break the wall.
Yeah.
You get them closer to, and it was, you know, I think the first time I started doing that, it was to diffuse times when the audience was a little hostile. Mm-hmm. So somebody was yelling things, or if there was a group talking a little too much in one section, the next time I would go for a suggestion, I would walk right to where they were and go, hey, excuse me. And as soon as you're that close, everybody's looking at the ref.
Yeah.
They stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it was like little tricks that way, but definitely more personable.
Yeah.
I think the audiences love the fact that Comedy Sportz is just that. It's about that. The shows are about what they give. And we're there for them. We're high-fiving them at the end. They can see us sitting outside at the bar afterward, you know, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So when reffing, being a little more personable, because the ref, the stigma of the ref in all of sports is to be hated.
Right, sure.
Right? You hate the umpire.
Yeah.
You hate from way
calls.
back. They make the calls. Someone's going to be happy. Someone isn't. I mean, back in the day, you'd get up on stage and people would, at cults, they would talk during the ref spiel. So you had to confront that in a way.
Yeah.
I was good at confronting and smiling about it. I was like, I could I don't want to say put you down, but I could knock you off your knees a little bit as a heckling person in the audience.
Sure.
And then have you be happy that I did it.
Yeah, and still be on your side.
And not want to beat me up after.
Right, yeah.
That has
important.
happened.
What?
No, not really.
Well, even explaining the games. I mean, I always think of the ref always being in the box on the stage, but even explaining games, you would be out in the crowd talking to them as if you were having a personal conversation with two people. Right. You'd point at one person, like, so what's going to happen over here? And then you'd point at another person. I thought it was great that you were in the crowd.
Thank you. In getting back to explaining games is crazy because all refs will tell you when they first start reffing the game, and you've ref shows.
Few.
Right? Yeah. So what you find yourself doing is you're so worried about being able to explain the games correctly.
The games, yeah.
So you just explain a game forever.
Right.
Yeah. All the explanations,
all the minutia that could possibly happen.
I know. It's like right now I'm probably talking way too much.
So at one point then,
Yeah.
you ended up being in a group that started the original Midnite Show, right? You were one of the originals?
Yeah. So
Eric Price, you,
and
Tim
Dylan,
Higgins, Dylan Bolin,
Bill
Bartell, and who am I missing?
Maddie
Garnis was original.
Was he? Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, it's been. I'm 57. I forget stuff.
I
forget what I had
everything.
for
I
breakfast.
don't even know
I made
how I got here.
BLTs. That's
Okay.
right.
So tell me about that, doing something different. Like you started in Brady Street, and then you get to ComedySportz,
Right.
and then now you're doing the Midnite Show. Were there other groups and things you were doing other than that?
No, that was enough. And the Midnite Show started by us putting leaflets on cars at UWM to try to get people to come out to a show at midnight at ComedySportz. And the group, I was the oldest one in the group.
Yeah.
It was very fast paced. There's a good group of
improvisers.
Dudes. There's no
Incredible.
doubt. Yeah, very, very good. I think I lasted in the group for just under a year, and then we had some stuff go on at home that I needed to be home for.
Yeah.
So I just pulled myself out of it. And the Midnite Show continues, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
they're
it?
still
yeah,
on. They're
isn't
still
that
going.
crazy?
I think.
Yeah.
Who's the only original there? Is it Maddie? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddie's still in it.
Yeah, Maddie's
Okay.
still in it. Maddie, Allen, John Waldbauer, Tim comes in and out. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Midnite Show in a bit.
Well, I'm not up that late, are you?
No.
No.
I got home at 11:30 yesterday, and I don't know how I got up this morning. Christine, what was your favorite game?
My favorite
Yeah,
game?
your favorite
At
ComedySportz
ComedySportz,
game.
I've always loved Forward Reverse.
Have you? Yeah.
It's one of the first scene games you learn, and I love it. When it works, it kills. It's amazing. But when you have people standing there talking, it doesn't work.
Let me ask you this.
No, now I'm being interviewed.
A little bit. Let me ask you this. What was your most feared game that came out of the bucket, and you were like, oh.
Well, I have shared many times that I'm terrible at pun games.
Got it.
185 is tough for me. I usually have Brian Green whispering jokes in my ear so I can get in the box. Right. Products International, terrible. I'm not good at pun games.
Right.
I feel really comfortable in scene games. I can do good characters and contort my face. I make crazy faces. I used to be good at guessing games as the guesser, but now that I'm older and I've had kids, I literally have no brain cells left and I can't remember anything. So when I started coming back and was guessing, and I realized I can't do this anymore. Like my brain just can't do it. But I love guessing games. What's your favorite game, Joe?
I have tons of favorite games. My favorite game always was changing styles, or before we turned it into styles, it was changing emotions. And it wasn't even performing it.
Yeah.
It was calling it. Because
Really?
we would play it with 2 improvisers on stage, and each one of them would have a caller on each side of the off stage with
Yeah.
a list of emotions, just straight emotions.
Yeah.
And I was always really, really good at calling.
What do you mean? How can you be good at calling? Explain that.
So you can be good at calling by not running similar emotions back to back to back.
And you know what to save for the end.
And you know what to save for the end.
Yeah.
And to start it off so that the audience can pick up how the game is played.
Right.
You start off with emotions that are simple.
Yeah.
For them to know and for the audience to understand your anger and your happy and your sad.
Yeah.
And then you move on to other ones.
Well, so what game would you dread if it got pulled out of the bucket that you had to play?
Gosh, it was so many.
It's so bizarre that you actually did this for as long as you did.
Isn't that crazy?
You're like,
and
I
so
hated
well.
every second of it.
I did not hate every second of it. Just the beginning. So that only let's back up.
Okay.
It was only like for that first year.
But you stuck with it for a year and you were so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and look what
That's
happened.
amazing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing as well.
I think it's great. I wish people would stick with things. My son, I'll bring up again, bless his heart. I love him. He's the love of my life. But I always tell him you have to practice to get better at things.
Right.
And the first time he tried to ride a 2-wheeler, guess what happened? He fell. Because everybody falls the first time.
Right.
And I said, okay, get back up. No, I fell. I can't do it. Well, no, honey, everybody falls. No, I can't. I'm done. He gave it up for 2 years. He wouldn't do it. Refused. Flat out refused. And then the only reason he learned is because our daughter, Mayna, started on a 2-wheeler, and she was almost getting it. And Nelson ran out of the house and he saw us and he said, wait, Mommy, is she on 2 wheels? And I said, oh yeah, honey, she's going to get it. He ran to the garage, grabbed his bike, and within 10 minutes he got it.
Stop it.
Yeah. And I said, honey, that's what you have to practice to get better. And that's something that just eludes him. He gets so mad and frustrated, and I wish he'd stick with things. But I'm amazed you stuck with something for a year when you said you were so uncomfortable.
The worst, the most fearful game for me, and there are a few, I think most players have a few. And I think for me, they were always the ones that were individually driven. So in other words, you had to stand. It wasn't a team. I felt really comfortable
on a team,
helping and also carrying.
Right.
That happened a lot.
Sure.
But the game, I don't know if they play a Poets Corner anymore. And Poets Corner was a game that you had 3 poets on each team.
Okay.
You had like real poets.
Yeah.
Which I was totally lost with. And then we would get. I think we got like 2 poets and 1 subject, like vegetable poetry.
Okay.
Right. And you would have to. You would get 3 each, so 3 per team.
Okay.
One person on one team would come out and get a word.
Okay.
And stand by themselves and tell a poem.
Oh Lord.
I know. I'm sweating right now.
In the style of a famous poet.
Yeah, and they're like, here, do this. I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
Right.
So it's like, all right, to make it up, and just the fear of like Poets Corner. You're gonna do Poets at halftime. Somebody would go, all right, so we're coming back with Poets Corner, and
you're like, no,
I'm gonna kill you. So that would be the fear. Now, one of the favorites, and I think it's a favorite, it's 185, because 185 is a game that our group, Brady Street, actually brought to the ComedySportz Company.
Really?
Yeah. And that was so probably late 80, probably 90.
Did you guys make up
I have
the game?
it at home. I have the award at home.
The award.
Yeah, because we Brady Street won. There was a game of the year, new game of the year at the banquet.
Yeah.
And we got 185.
Okay.
So we did not make up the game.
Okay.
We were doing a show in Beloit, and there was, we were the opening act and the feature act, and there was a headliner act.
Okay.
I think it was Comedy in the Silo in Beloit, and they had it once a month.
Okay.
It was like 300 people in this huge, huge room, and at that time we were doing some improv games, but mostly staged, jokes.
Yeah.
And then this headliner comes up. When we were talking to him backstage, he's like, yeah, I used to do this improv thing back in the, have you ever heard of this game, 185? And no, and he explains it to us. He goes, maybe we'll do it after my set. Let's see.
Okay.
So he ends his set, and while he's coming off, we come out to, hey, hope you had a great time. He comes back out, and he goes, you guys want to do it? And then we tell the audience that, hey, we're going to play and do some more games.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. So hour and 45-minute show, us and the headliner. And then we go out, and we proceed to do the game of 185 for about 80 minutes.
80 minutes of 185?
I'm lying, I'm dying. In those 80 minutes, Christine, I did 5.
That would have been me with like 1. You did 5?
I had no. So I have Bruce Brinker.
You have Bruce Brinker,
John
who is
and Angelo,
the pun man.
and they're just going. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, these people got to be going, why is that guy even up there?
Why is that kid up there? What's going on?
And I'm going to myself, why am I up here? And why did I stick this out, right? So that's where the game of 185 came from.
So how do you pick yourself up after a show where you're not feeling comfortable? You practice for a year doing it?
I got good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I got, you start getting wins and then you get confidence.
So the first time you did a Summerfest show, were you feeling good already, or did Summerfest make you so nervous? We used to do shows at Summerfest at the Comedy Tent for thousands of people.
Yeah. So the first comedy sports show I ever did at Summerfest was on an auxiliary stage right by the main entrance. It was the WISN Channel 12 stage where they did a live one of the live newscasts.
Yeah.
And the ComedySportz show was the Brady Street team against the team that Tom knew. Tom knew was an improv group also. Tom knew Paula Foley. David Paul Knewton and 2 other people, and they were called the Kitsch Club.
Okay.
So Dick was like, "Let's have the Kitsch Club and Brady Street go at it," and we're like, "Oh yeah,
okay."
Right? Because that was, we're like the Italian comedy gang,
Yeah.
I guess, and so I had no fear there.
Yeah.
And then ComedySportz went to the Channel 6 comedy stage before the big tent by the amphitheater.
Yeah.
Not a lot of fear there.
No?
No, because all of it was team stuff, and I was in my groove at that time. By the time we got to the tent, it was wheelhouse.
It was just
like 3,000 people.
I got this.
I can't wait to. I will never forget. I was doing 20 shows, 3,000 people, 2 a day, 1 day off, and I'm standing behind the backdrop for the first show, and I'm roughing it, and it's packed. And I can see PJ off to the right. Ready? He's like, "You ready?" I'm like, "I'm ready."
Yeah.
And we all had our intro song. I had Zeppelin playing, and I'm backstage, and I have total goosebumps.
Really?
And I'm so jacked.
Yes.
Got the mic in my hand, but as soon as I come out and I start talking,
You're
it's
fine.
over, man.
Yeah,
Own
you're
it.
fine.
Own it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those are some really good times, no doubt.
Well, now you were part of Dick's favorite thing about ComedySportz.
Oh boy.
And I am too. You are. Who else would be? Can you guess what it is? Let's see. I can't think of others. There's got to be many other cities. You and Holly got together.
Yeah, and you.
And Dave and I. Dick says one of his favorite things are all the families that came out of ComedySportz.
Yeah, me too. I tell it to Dick a lot.
Yeah, so you met your lovely wife.
Yeah.
How long did you know Holly? Ignatowski.
Holly Ignatowski, my lovely wife of 21 years, we probably met right when she started.
Yeah.
She's early 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, early 90s, 91, 92.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I loved when Dick said that. That's his favorite thing about sports.
You know, I've told Dick has gone through a lot of things in his life, and I've said, you know what, you do you ever sit and you ever look at it? Do you ever really look at the tree? Do you ever look at, besides the fact how many people you got to have a brighter day from watching one of your shows? It's something you started. How many people know it? How many people? There's a lot, and he's the guy that got it running.
I know.
And then the even bigger thing is how many families and babies are born.
I
and
know.
how many amazing things have happened.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing, and it's a great family to be a part of. Yeah. Then I have to ask, you have retired.
Huh?
Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, why? What happened there? I gotta say, whenever I'd show up at Sportz and you were on the list for lineups, I was so thrilled to play with you and Holly.
Yeah, I got to this point where I liked being home on Friday and Saturday nights.
I got that.
And it was. I did it for a long time. Every show. So you figure like 14, 15 years, every available show.
Right.
That's just a lot.
That's a lot.
It takes its toll. And then I found myself on a Saturday when I'm scheduled for 2 shows and working another job in the morning, and it's 3 in the afternoon, and I would just like to chill. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call in. Somebody want to play. And you find yourself calling in and being replaced, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
So kind of, I miss... to be as blunt and as honest as I can be, I miss performing back in the day. I'm not quite sure I could walk into the building right now and do the same kind of shows for a lot of reasons. And times have changed. And 2019.
Well, how has it changed from when you were playing to now?
So many things have changed. I believe it's all different.
Yeah.
I believe the times are different. And for me, I'm not on board topically, like everything that's going on. So you have
Pop
children.
Culture, yes.
So you have children.
Yes.
So we don't have children.
Yeah.
So if I had 11 and 12, 13-year-olds, I would know dance moves and Fortnite and boom.
Yeah.
I think if I get in a guessing game,
Yeah.
I'd be the moron up there that would be like, I have no idea what any of that is. You could mime out anything you want, and I wouldn't get it. Was my dumb? No. But pop culture, I'm not there. I'm just not there. And you need to be. You need. I think if we put together a bunch of old dudes or old people on stage and did a show, I would have no problem with it. But I don't think I would last in the green room for more than a half hour.
I can see that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a bad person.
no, you're not. So is that Joe Mama Cortese?
It is Joe Mama Cortese. It always has been. Yeah. Not sure why.
It was.
No.
Back with your mama jokes.
You know what? That's exactly it.
Different time.
There was a different time. It was a your mama joke. The dozens were it. That was Richard Pryor. That was the one I listened to.
Yeah.
And Angelo Blaze got me on that. I could recite Richard Pryor bits. Like you just can't say anymore. You can't say it anymore.
No.
But they were funny. And they're still funny to this day, maybe.
Well, I lucked out. I got to play with you and Holly. I think within the last year, we did a show, you and Holly and Maddie Garnis and I. We did a show for your nieces, had like a Girl Scout remote show at a Nicolay High School or something. And we went, and I was so excited that we got to play together.
I know. It was amazing for us to do the show for my two great nieces who have no idea that Uncle Joe and Auntie Holly have anything we've done in the past. I mean, they have no idea. So we've taken them to ComedySportz, not to a show, but we've taken them and they see our pictures on the wall and they can't believe there's like this huge poster of Holly and I. And
like, oh my God, you were here.
What?
You did this?
You did what?
Yeah.
And so their father, my nephew Ryan. Yeah. So he was a ballet parker.
Yeah,
he worked at ComedySportz on Jefferson forever. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was wonderful playing with you. And I love playing.
Oh yeah.
You know, I would do some remote shows.
Sure.
And probably be very good, but in-house shows might be a little tough.
Well, I tell you, every once in a while when I'm doing a show and Holly will say, oh, let me know, maybe I'll come down. I think that'd be fun. What if a whole bunch of old school called in? It'd be more comfortable for you if it was a bunch of people you were familiar with.
I would totally be in on that. You
think
get a
that
Rolly in there.
Oh, Rolly, come on.
I know.
We're going to play a couple games before we end here, Joey. I'm going to have you pick these papers in front of you. I've got tons of different ComedySportz games on there. I want you to pick two, and I want you to tell me about the games and which one you'd rather play if you end up doing that show that I'm going to call you down to do. What do you got?
Okay, so I chose the game of Switch Interview.
Switch Interview.
Yeah.
And
the game of Beastie Rap.
Beastie Rap. Tell me about these games and what you would rather do.
So Switch Interview is a game where one person is the interviewer and the other one is the interviewee, and you get different suggestions from the audience, and the interviewee, the expert, will then be interviewed like they were on a television show. That's Switch Interview. I like the game of Switch Interview. It seems... Again, it's a character-driven game.
Yes.
You know, so if you're a really good character person, I think I was okay character person, so I would probably pick the Beastie Rap game, which is more of a team rhyming game in the rap form of the Beastie Boys, correct?
The Beastie
is that
Boys,
it?
yes.
Yeah. And it's
sitting over there, and his name is
Joe.
He likes to walk, but he's kind of
slow. I gotta go.
We can't even do it here.
So these are two perfect games to explain too, because they're two very good games, but so different. Mm-hmm. The Switch Interview is so much more of an individual character game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a listening game. The Beastie Rap is such a high energy movement. For sure. Big stage, everybody moving. So for the audience to watch, I think they're both really good games. But from an audience standpoint, I think a Beastie Rap game would be more fun to watch, if that's where we're going.
I love that that's what you said, because you were always so cognizant of the audience.
Yeah.
You always knew how to read a crowd and knew what would be good in a show.
I don't know how much of it happens anymore, but we used to break down what have we done and what haven't we done and what do we need to do going forward, kind of like a football game.
Yeah.
Or a sporting event that has a first half and something happens and you got to make adjustments because they figured something out. So ComedySportz, again, I don't know if this goes on now, but you would make decisions at halftime on how the first half went, even if you had set in your mind the two captains on what games you might think about playing.
Yeah.
You might come back and go, you know what? Yeah. We probably need to pick the energy up.
Yep.
So let's do a head-to-head forward reverse, or let's do a mega replay.
Right.
As opposed to a story.
Right.
where you're standing.
Well, it's so important to be able to know how to read a crowd. And I don't think that's intuitive for everybody, you know?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. So it's refreshing when you've got someone down there or multiple people who can understand a crowd and say, no, this is really going to work better, you know? All right, one more game, Joe.
What'd I do?
I can read it if you want. You're going to pick one of these. You want me to? Okay.
No, I got my glasses.
All right, pick. Got your readers on. Pick one of the would you rather. And get to know you a little bit here. Would you rather?
So I get to pick any one of these?
Sure, pick any one of those.
Right,
There's a bunch on there.
Can I just look at them all and laugh?
Nelson reads them to me in the car.
Appearance embarrassment.
Okay. Would you rather?
Would I rather burp loudly in a board meeting or fart semi-loudly on a first date? Oh boy.
That's tough.
I've done one.
I'll tell you, my son picked that exact one. It's familiar. Yeah. He decided to fart on a first date.
I would probably fart on a first date.
Would you fart on a first date?
So fart semi-loudly on a first date. Yeah, because you know right there if it's going anywhere, right? I mean, if it's accidental and you can play it, you're like, you'll know if the person likes you or not. That's a for sure one, right? Because if they're like, I can't believe this dude just farted on the first date, Christine, you'd be like, I'm out of here. You're like, out of here. But if I was so charming that a fart just made it, I mean, if it smelled like lilacs or something.
If your fart smelled like lilacs,
oh my gosh, I met lavender butt guy. I don't know.
This is so romantic.
I know.
Joe, thank you so much for being here. This has been a treat. I'm glad you finally found time in your schedule to meet with me.
Well, I know I said it earlier. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
And I'm glad that you're the one that's putting this together. And Kyle, thank you too, buddy.
Oh, thanks. Hey, everybody. Joe Cortese.
That's me.
The ComedySportz Podcast is produced and engineered by Kyle Hanneken. Our announcer is PJ Rockwell. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Send us your favorite Would You Rather question at thecomedysportspodcast@gmail.com. As always, I'm Christine Rollo Capriolo. Catch you next time.
The ComedySportz Podcast is an independent production made by CSz players. The views and opinions expressed by the podcast host and any guests are their own and do not represent the views and opinions of any CSz location or CSz Worldwide. Vocabulary used by the host and guests is not necessarily representative of the CSz brand.